Good evening. I'd like to open the meeting. Welcome to the meeting of the Old Bridge Board at Township Board of Education pursuant to bylaws and applicable laws of the state of New Jersey. All right, to where? Okay. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-10, adequate. I apologize to you because my glasses are fogging up and I'm having a difficult time reading. That's the only reason. So, I am literate. Unfortunately, I can't see. So, all right, where were we? Has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the board offices, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118, and Verizon Fios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, February 8th, 2022. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Weber. The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Callie?
Here.
Mr. Caro?
Here.
Mr. Giordano? Ms. Lent?
Present.
Mr. Marquetta?
Present.
Mr. Slade?
Here.
Mr. Solikowski?
Present.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Quorum exists.
So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would any of the board members prefer to read the Code of Ethics, Warner?
Burns will volunteer.
Go ahead. Teresa, you're up.
Oh, you want me to read it? I thought we were volunteering for next week.
Oh, next week, okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
We'd probably do this while we read it at both meetings. It might be more helpful.
I'm sorry, what?
It would probably be better if we read it at both meetings. It might be more effective.
Would you like to start doing that now? That's
Sure.
not something
Sounds
we...
like a plan. Yeah. All right. Hearing nothing from me, we'll move on. God. I can't see. It's horrible. Turn out, have another mask. I'll see if that one works right. All right. We're going to skip the board goals. Any questions? Yeah. All right, do any of the board members have any questions on the minutes? Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve them. Next week, okay. Sorry. You're up? Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. I'll have a report for next week.
Very good. Okay. Recognition. That'll be next week. Superintendent's report will be next week. Part of What's that? You have an update, Dave? Go ahead.
To the fellow board members and members of our audience, as you're aware, in the past 24 hours, the governor of New Jersey has announced that on March 7th, the mask mandate for schools shall be lifted. Old Bridge has never, as a district, mandated masks outside of its legal responsibility to do so. As a district, I do not believe that position will change. We must be consistent and follow the guidance provided to us by the CDC, Department of Health, and move forward. As such, the following statement was put out in a media release to a few of the media outlets that asked for a response from the district. The Old Bridge Public School District has dutifully followed the requirements prescribed to school districts protecting the health of our learning communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we continue to do what needs to be done to keep our schools running and to have every student and staff member be safe. With that said, we look to the upcoming removal of the mask mandate as a sign of a most welcome ebb in the COVID-19 and as perhaps the greatest step towards normalcy we have had seen till date since the pandemic began. We look forward to truly seeing each other, our emotions, for the first time in a very long time. And I think this has to do a lot of the, at least locally, when you look at the numbers, I think today we had 9 positive students and 2 positive staff members. And if you think back to just a little over a month ago when we came back from winter recess, we had 375 positive students and 65 staff members on our first day back. And how far we've come through this pandemic, and a lot of that goes to the ability to, when people couldn't find vaccinations, if that was their choice, the district found ways to make it available to them. When people couldn't find testing outlets, we worked with the township, a great partnership with the township, and provide testing here on site. And when they couldn't find them during the workday, they came to my office and got testing. And I'm gleeful, because no one wants to see this removed more than me, that we are going to be moving in that direction and being able to have the option for parents and students to make that choice to remove their masks. With that being said, that will be an option. If students or staff members choose to keep a mask on, they have the right to do so, and they will do so without harassment or intimidation. The last thing I want to make sure that I ask with our board attorney and with the board and the public, so in case there's any questions related to it, is that the in-school mask mandate removal would not have an impact on masks on buses, from what I understand legally, because that is from a federal guidelines for transportation. Is that correct, Mr. Parton?
Yes, and I believe that there'll be clarification on that when the March 7th, assuming that March 7th stays March 7th, when that rescission of the state mask mandate comes through, we will probably get clarification at the same time from the CDC, from the Department of Health, and from the governor's office as far as school buses. But yes, the school bus mask mandate is a federal animal, not a state one, certainly not a local one. So I believe that you're correct, but we have
30 days or so.
30 days to find out.
Well, we look forward to that update. And at next week's meeting, we'll have an update on, Board Member Slade asked for information related to students' data usage time, tech time with use of computers in the classrooms and so forth. So we'll have a report for that under Superintendent's Report and Progress Towards Goals at our next meeting on next Tuesday. That concludes this report.
Thank you. Is there any correspondence, Joe?
sorry, there was no
All right,
correspondence.
thank you. All right, I'll open it to the public on any agenda item that's only going to have action tonight. Seeing no hands, I'll close the vote. Would you step to the microphone, please? Yeah, and you need your mask as well.
Hold it down. So we keep referring to the CDC. However, the CDC has stated that cloth masks don't do anything. So why are we waiting another month to take them off of our children?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
We're waiting because until the other month has passed to March 7th, the legal mandates that affect this board still require masks. That's not this board's opinion of whether that's a good mandate or a bad mandate. It is a mandate, so that's why.
Okay.
And since we're in the month of February, it'll only be 28 days.
Give or take, yes.
No, exactly. Okay.
Mr. Weber, I did receive an email to the board secretary, email today by 12 o'clock that I need to read.
Okay.
The email is from Ms. Kelly Ellis Foster. It's addressed to Mr. Mara. Thank you for reading my email. I'm out of town and cannot attend this meeting in person. I would like to ask the board or administration for an update on the strategic planning process. In the fall, the board received a presentation and recommendation was made by the Strategic Planning Committee on a path forward. However, out of respect for the new board, the process was not started. The current strategic plan ends June 30th, 2022. The process is a once in 5-year opportunity to have the community come together to discuss the direction of the district. If it is the one time we can have a diverse cross-section of community take part in a more in-depth conversation, share ideas, find commonality, and determine the district's priorities for the next 5 years. Thank you very much for the update. Regards, Kelly Ellis Foster. Thank you.
Yeah, I will be convening a long-range planning committee, and that will have two things that we need to focus on. Given the financial straits that we face coming up, which have to be very specifically quantified, there may be action involving things through the long-range planning committee there that have to be done very quickly. The long-range plan itself, we do have time, additional time to go forward with that. The long strategic part of it, the 5-year plan.
Mr. Weber, while we're still on hearing of the residents, just as we discussed at the regular January meeting, the option to send emails to Mr. Mara is over as of tonight. It was really part of the remote meeting procedures, which are fortunately a thing of the past, hopefully. And so policy 0164.6, which is the remote meeting opportunity to send in letters, is no longer going to be effective as of next week, and people wishing to speak at the board meeting are welcome to do so, but have to do so in person. Just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that change.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Joe. All right, now, I don't think we have the action portion of the agenda here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Chris, you want to address policy?
Yeah, on policy, I've spoken to Mr. Cittadino and to a couple of board members, and to the public comment that was made a couple minutes ago, and to the public issue that everybody's very well aware of right now. You do have a masking policy, which is just parroting the state mandate at this point. We will have only one action meeting between now and March 7th. So if it is the pleasure of the board to do basically what Mr. Cittadino laid out, to make masks optional in the schools and on school property, you would need a motion on next week's agenda to abolish policy 1648.11, which is the masking policy. You could take that action next week if it's the will of the board, but it would have to carry an effective date for the abolishment of that policy of March 7th or on the effective date of the removal of the state mandate.
And can we take a poll of the board to see that we have more than 3 votes to put it on the regular meeting? Go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Weber, can you repeat it?
I'd just like to take a poll so that we get 3 people, at least 3 people approved to go on the agenda for action next week.
Well, that can also be added by the policy committee, the superintendent, the board president. There are many ways for that to get on the agenda, but we should see where the board stands on it anyway.
Good idea.
So I'm doing a straw poll on,
On whether board members agree that the policy on masking in Old Bridge schools should be abolished as of March 7th or as soon as possible, depending on the effective date of that state action.
thank you. Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes?
Mr. Carroll?
I don't think Ms. Kelly understood what, yeah.
No, actually,
You-
I'm sorry. This is a straw poll to
Yes.
see if we agree to put it on the agenda for vote. We're not
Yes.
voting on it tonight.
Correct, you are not voting on it tonight.
Okay, and then my only other question was, you said March 7th or earlier, and that would depend on the governor.
That's correct. So your language for next week would, just to cover the board, would say on March 7th or such date as the governor eliminates the masking mandate. Because until he does that, you do not have the authority to do that. And if he does it on March 6th, then you would have the authority for that to happen on March 6th.
Okay.
So it is unusual to rescind a policy with an open date, but these are unusual times.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
The straw poll passes. But it's not an action item.
All right. Tell me when we get to the action. Finance, right?
Curriculum,
Okay. And this is just for
for review.
review. All right, we are discussing item 16, Roman numeral 16, curriculum and professional development. Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none. We'll move on to athletics. Any comments or questions on athletics? Moving
Can I
on.
say something?
Yes, sir.
So it looks like Mr. Donahue is going to be taking over for Coach Lanzafama. Is that what that is? So I just wanted to say congratulations to Coach. He's a tremendous coach and a tremendous teacher. And good luck to Mr. Donahue. I'm sure he's going to do well.
All right, thank you. Moving on to finance, which we do have an action item.
Yes. Action on number 1.
All right. Action item 1 is open for discussion and a motion to move it.
Lent will move it.
Weber will second. Any discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
All right. And any discussion on finance items 2 through 5? Yeah, 5, 6 is crossed out, though, right?
So you go to 9. So that's good.
Yeah. And 7, 8, 9.
Okay, Mr. Weber, I wanted to, normally, either in January or February, the district audit for the prior year. The presentation is made by the audit firm that we hire. However, the state is mandating certain information be contained in the consolidated annual financial report that they have not provided to us. So this presentation of the CAFR should be done at the first meeting in March, just so the board members know that there were no financial findings again for the audit for last year.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 20, non-certificated personnel operational. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, Joe? No roll call. All right, item 21, non-certificated personnel, other. Items 1 through 10. Is there any discussion from anyone on the board?
Yes, Mr. Weber, I will go over this next week. We have quite a few retirees, and we will discuss that next week.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Hearing nothing else, let's move on. And certificated personnel, items 1. Yeah. All right, so we'll discuss 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll take a vote. Is there a motion to go forward on voting on items 1, 2, and 3?
Lent will move it.
Separating number 1 for discussion, please.
Okay. All right, and so he's separating one is, yeah, we need a second, I'll second it. All right, Mr. Sulikowski, discussion on item 1.
Okay, move the board approve the retirement of the following staff members with deep appreciation for their years of dedicated service to the district. Karen Barron and Michelle Barron. Karen was at Madison Park. She was a nurse for 24 years. And Michelle is at Shepherd. She was at Shepherd School, grade 1 teacher for 26 years with a total of 50 years. Thank you, folks, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Matt. Any other discussion on the other items? If not, roll call.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolutions 1, 2, and 3 pass.
All right, is there any discussion on items 4 through forever here? Through 24. Hearing no discussion, we will move on to the next item. Non-certificated personnel transportation, items 1 and 2 for discussion only. Hearing none, we'll move on to transportation. Items 1 through 3 for discussion only. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to items 25, supplies, equipment, and services, items 1 and 2. Any discussion from the board? We'll move on to miscellaneous. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Can we have a discussion on number 4?
Yes, we can. Leo?
So while I was reviewing the HIV incident reports, I noticed that a lot of the, to try to help the student, there was a lot of SEL involved in that, as if they were sat down and they were made aware of how they hurt other people and how they could become more open-minded. Would it be possible to see that, like to see what they're watching or to see what they're being told about while they're watching that SEL or whatever they're learning about?
In the majority of the situations, there are counseling sessions with the school counselor through conversation in which the public would not be privy to that information. But the parents could ask for that information.
Okay, so the parents are being made aware of?
Yes, they get a
Okay.
report that states what happened as a consequence, or at the conclusion of the summary, if it says consequences were imposed, and what information, type of information.
Okay. Is the parent being informed of what's being spoken about in the room between the student and the guidance counselor? Is the parent there, or is it just the student and the guidance counselor?
In most situations, it's the student and the guidance counselor.
Okay. Is it possible that maybe we could get the parent involvement in that as well? So that the parent could be sat down and listen to what is being said as far as the guidance counselor and the student?
I'd have to look at policy a little deeper on that, I sent you that report about a month ago. It would be a good question if you sent it to me a little earlier.
Mhm.
I could have got the information for you
Mm-hmm.
and provided you some insight on it.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? If not, Joe, anything on board secretary business? No? Okay. All right. Okay, we will open up the hearings of resident on any school questions you may have. Mr. Dunn?
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Education. It's that time of year, as we know, it's budget planning season, right? It's February, so I'm hoping that the board is doing their due diligence regarding the 22-23 budget. Being the chairman of the Finance Committee for over 10 years, I understand what's going into this budget, and I understand, based upon the projections I saw, we were going to be probably about $5 to $7 million in the hole this year. So with that said, I would like to know what programs and what maneuvers the board's going to make to try to fill that hole. I know it's draconian cuts. I'm hoping that it's not more, because if it's more, that means layoffs. It's going to mean outsourcing possibly. There's going to be a lot of problems that our district is going to have to maneuver to ensure that the educational enrichment of our children are dealt with. With that said, I'm going to wholeheartedly and request to the board any major cuts to this budget that's going to affect our education. I would like the public to be vetted or be informed and give them the option to vet. Because if we're going to cut drastically, I think the public should have the option to give their input before the board votes and makes changes to the budget. I know that it's a very difficult time. I know that it's going to be problematic for this district. And it's unfortunate. I know that the governor is going to be giving his budget speech within the next few weeks. Then the Board of Education needs to get their tentative budget to the county superintendent in March. And once that budget gets submitted, I would like that presented, not just at a meeting where you're going to delineate the information, but I think we should have more information beforehand so that the public can vet and discuss what they think should be in the best interest of our students. So with that said, I'm just hoping that the board will afford the public that, because based upon my knowledge from previous years, it's going to be about $7 or $8 million. And that's a huge hole to plug, a huge hole to plug. And you can imagine where those cuts are going to come from. So I appreciate it. I hope that you can elaborate and give us some more details, because you know what, it's going to be draconian. I think it's going to be as worse as 2011. Thank you.
As far as the process is, we're still, it's open. We are still in process, and as a matter of fact, we are meeting after this meeting to continue the dialogue between the administration and the board. So we are pursuing that vigorously and trying to resolve as many options as we can going forward when we get the final number from the state on February 24th.
Do you want to update the public and the board?
So
on that?
I received notification from the state today that the governor's address has been postponed from February 24 to March 5th or so. So we will not know what our state aid is probably till March 9th. And the budget that will be submitted to the county will be submitted by March 21st. And the budget that's submitted, just to recall the process for those of the members of the public who don't recall, the budget that's submitted in March is just a budget that's approved for advertising only. There is an opportunity to change the budget that's submitted at that point at the public hearing, which is the first week of May. So as of now, normally we are advised about the state aid notice, or state aid that we will receive at the end of February. It will probably be the second week of March, as of today.
And we still will be meeting tonight to still continue to work on the process. Okay. Seeing no other hands from the public, I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Keith McIsaac. Just a couple of questions. If the budget, I'm not sure when the budget is approved for the next year. Excuse me, this mess really gets me. But if it was approved in October or November of last year, that being said, the lunches were forecasted. You had a allotted amount of money set aside for the lunches for 2020 and 21. And if ESSER funds were paying for the lunches, where would the forecasted money be used? And another question is, how much money did you get for the sale of the Nike missile base? And where would that money be going to? Thank you.
Okay, so first, the cash receipts from the food service program has nothing to do with the ESSER program. The food service program is an enterprise fund in the district, which basically means that it's a fund that's run like a business. So that money does not get shifted over to the educational programs of the district. It has to stay in the food service operation. So if there's repairs that need to be made, equipment that needs to be adjusted, those kind of things, that money is required to be used in the food service fund. In terms of the budget the budget process starts in October. It's ongoing from October until March 21st this year, where we analyze almost every operation in the district. We use zero-based budgeting for probably 140 of the $150 million budget, so we analyze everything that we do. And as I said, the budget is submitted to the county in March. It's not the final budget, and that budget is for the July 1st, 22 to June 30th, 23. So that budget is not done yet. It's in the process. It's still a work in progress. The Nike base has not been sold, but the authorization that we receive from the state is that if and when it is sold, those funds in their entirety must be deposited into capital reserve, which means that it can only be used for capital projects in the district, capital projects that are already listed on the district's long-range facility plan. Okay?
All right. Is there anyone else? Seeing no hands? Seeing a hand?
Good evening. My name is Elena Francisco. Hearing that we will be going mask optional is the best news that I have heard in a very long time, so for that, I thank you. I'm curious to know how this will affect quarantining and close contacts. We've been quarantining Healthy Kids for a really long time now, and I just want to know how not wearing masks, if some of the kids aren't wearing masks by choice, how it's going to affect that, and if there's any plan to kind of move on from quarantining Healthy Kids. Thank you.
Currently, and I believe Mr. Parton addressed this earlier, and I know my Association of Superintendents has sent a request to the Department of Education. The governor gave them 30 days, basically, to have the Department of Health, working with the CDC, figure that out. Right now, if you were returning from an illness, the CDC and the Department of Health provide guidelines to schools that you wear a mask. Would that still be in place? Without the mask, if you were returning, you're supposed to keep with the mask on 3 feet. Without the mask, you're supposed to be 6 feet. Are they going to change that too? This is all information that it'd be preemptive for her to say, this is what we're going to do, because we don't know what the guidelines and requirements will be at that time. So hopefully, giving them enough leeway, usually what they do is tell us, effective immediately, do this. So hopefully with the 30 days, they can give us the information, enough time that we can share it with the board, share it with the public, and make some local decisions going forward.
All right. Is there anyone else? Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion. And we are going to go into closed session.
Yes, you're going to go into closed session for matters of personnel and property regarding the 22-23 budget. And the board's going to go over to the conference room at administrative offices, so we will not be back. The board will adjourn from there with no further action tonight.
All right. Thank you for coming out.
We need a motion.
Yes. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Lent
close.
will move it.
To close. All right.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.